turn to, but before we do, I want to go to Curtis Kile, our first caller tonight. Curtis is conducting the first annual Cannabis Roll, in which he's riding his wheelchair from Michigan to the White House. He attributes awareness and support for cannabis legalization and a tribute to his father, Charles Curtis Kile Jr., who passed away from cancer in 2011. And with that, Curtis Kile, welcome to Planet Green Trees.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate you having me. What a ride so far. What a ride.
What an inspiration you are. I know a lot of people have been following your story, and we're honored to have you on the show. Tell us, first of all, where do you find yourself tonight? What part of the...
We are in a town called Hagerstown, Maryland. We're about 100 miles from the White House.
Wow, the final
I
stretch.
do believe. Yeah.
Good.
And we went about 23 miles today because the last couple of days have been really rough. I've been spending a lot of time in my chair because we've been camping out a lot, and I have to give my rear end a rest, so I got a room tonight, and we were lucky enough to get one last night thanks to some donations that came through. So I've been able to concentrate on just getting there other than my health. My father, he was the original founder of United Marijuana Smokers of Michigan, and he found marijuana because my older brother came home and asked him if he could start smoking marijuana, that everybody at the high school was doing it. And my dad was into alcohol real bad. And he said, son, let me get back to you on that. He started doing some research. He went underground, actually, got involved in the marijuana thing back then, and found out that there was a lot more people than just kids doing it. But they had a hard drug problem. And so he said, come back to my brother and said, sure, you can smoke marijuana, but he also started smoking and stopped drinking. So marijuana saved his life. And I have cerebral palsy and have muscle spasms very severe. And if I don't smoke it, then the muscle spasms are really out of control. And I just feel that our government should be encouraging the experimentation of letting dying cancer patients let the doctors actually do testing, let them test. I mean, if somebody's on their last leg and they don't have no chance of living, why not let them try to save their life? I mean, it's a plant that grows up out of the ground. It's not some substance that man has turned into a miracle drug. This is a plant that's been here before we were. So,
you know what the problem is with marijuana? You know what the real problem is with marijuana? It's
illegal.
I
do. The pharmaceutical companies, they can't patent it. The alcohol industry, they don't want to see it legal either, because if they were to legal, if they can't patent it, and if they legalize marijuana, the pharmaceutical companies and the alcohol industry are bound to lose a lot of money. And believe it or not, the pharmaceutical companies came out with a drug called Marinol, a synthetic form of marijuana, that they said that cancer patients could take. But if you've ever had anybody in your life that's been sick with cancer, a lot of times they can't even get no food down, let alone the pills. So how are they going to keep it, and keep it down for that matter? And my big thing is they have morphine, they have Vicodin, they have all these man-made painkillers. Here's something that's natural that, has proven in other countries to shrink tumors, cancerous tumors. I heard a gentleman that I ran into this along the walk told me that over in the Netherlands, they have found out that some cancerous tubers have been shrunken because of the oil in the cannabis plant. And I think that's wonderful. But our U.S. government needs to stop wasting money on prosecuting people and drug tests and all these drug tests. That's so ludicrous that it makes me sick to my stomach to know that my kid's got to worry if he wants to smoke a little bit of marijuana, he's got to worry about a drug test for a job. Although you can go to the local bar or your pharmacy and get something that's a lot more dangerous than marijuana, and they don't test you for Vicodin, they don't test you for alcohol. You know, it's just crazy.
It is a failed policy. It is hypocritical. It is a terrible time that we see really can only be described as the celebration of alcohol. You know, you can't watch a sporting event without thinking that, you know, you can't have a good time unless you have alcohol in your hand, and it's really, you know, we know the prohibition doesn't work. I know, you know, we've got Joe White who's preaching about this, and your whole project is a real statement, and one that I know a lot of people have interest in. Tell me, where did you start out from, and about how many miles a day have you been going?
Well, we started out from my home in Taylor, Michigan, and we've been averaging, it depends, but we were averaging right around 30, 32 miles a day up until the last couple of days. I've only got in 23, 24 because, you know, my rear end is getting sore. But I'm getting my second wind now. We're so close to the White House, and I've been in touch with the person that's putting on the human rights rally. He wants me to speak at that rally, and he also told me that if I have another letter for President Obama, that they're throwing a birthday party for his oldest daughter on the 4th of July, but on the other side of the White House, that he'll make sure that President Obama gets the letter. So I really would like to talk to him, because this is not just a drug issue, this is the human rights thing. And a lot of people, old, young, if they're sick, they can benefit. I mean, we're worried about a Ford oil. You know, Henry Ford developed an engine that runs off the hemp plant. And if they were to legalize it and let them build that engine that runs off of hemp fuel, we wouldn't have to be so worried about foreign oil so much. You know, there's a lot of things that our government is doing that is backwards. And I think that they don't want people to be well informed. They want them to believe in the things like reefer madness and different things like that. Well, I'm just a regular human being with, you know, 2 kids to worry about, and I don't want to see them have to worry about going to jail over something that could save my life. Okay, because if I get cancer, I'd want the doctor to use everything available in his power to try and make me well, not give me something that's going to kill the cancer, but it's also going to kill me in the process. So, you know, and I'm sticking really bad with the cancer thing, because my father, he died in 2011 on September 7th, and my sister died of cancer September 19th, 2011. I had my sister and my father both died 12 days apart because of cancer. And when there's a plan out there that could show a great chance to be somewhat, even slightly have the chance of possibly curing some types of cancer, I think they should use it.
Well, it is really intellectually dishonest to suggest that it's a Schedule I drug when we know the government has its own proof that it has medical benefits. And we've heard testimony after testimony, and more than anecdotal, and there's studies to support it. And it really is unfair and unjust that there isn't an opportunity to further research. I'm taking it that as you described your condition, you yourself are a medical marijuana patient.
Yes.
And
yes.
You described your symptoms as being muscle spasms related to MS, right?
Cerebral palsy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes, I was born at 6 months. I was actually dead when I was born. They brought me back to life 3 times. So, you know, I'm living on borrowed time. So the time that I am here, buddy, I want to make sure that I do what's right. And I've been going to school at University of Wayne State University, to become a criminal justice major. But I found that I had to take a break, and this is more important to me. I want to make sure that sick people are able to get the medicine that they need, because right now we have legal marijuana in Michigan, but to me it's still not really legal medical marijuana, because the price has been driven up. These dispensaries, they'll pay a caregiver $250 an ounce, and then they'll turn around and sell it for $35 a gram. Okay, that's ridiculous. Especially when a person that's needs it, if they're sick, they're on disability, they're getting, a lot of them might be getting $1,200 a month. How can you afford to pay for that? I heard the other day that Washington, D.C., their medical patients, they have their insurance companies paying for their medical marijuana.
That's interesting.
Why isn't Michigan paying for the medical marijuana that the other patients are being prescribed in this state and any other state that's got medical marijuana? Why don't the insurance companies pay for it?
Well, first of all, they just wrote the welfare bill to suspend privileges or payments for drug testing positive for illegal substances, and did not write into it an exception for medical marijuana patients, which is ridiculous. What's interesting is you're going to Washington, D.C., and it's the way you just described it. There's also another catch to Washington, D.C.'s bill, which was, I thought, interesting, is that there's no list of physicians that you can go to. That is a private list. They will not release the names, and the physicians were required to be state certified to grant the recommendation or the permit. So I wonder sometimes if that's a reaction to the things that I complain about in Michigan and the things that we're complaining about in places like Montana. This is not for the real patient, as you and I are speaking about. I just oftentimes, and that's still even a loaded question, because who am I to say what a real patient is? But
because I'll be honest with you, the majority of marijuana patients that I am used to seeing, I'm only one of a few that I've seen in wheelchairs or using canes or crutches. And I understand there's other physical conditions, but let's face it, the money hasn't been taken out of the marijuana yet.
Well, here's one of the just to play devil's advocate, Curtis, let me suggest this. The Department of Community Health in Michigan's website, or LARA, has a statistic that says that 27% of Michigan households sought treatment for chronic pain in 2012. That means that probably about 2 million people from Michigan were seeking, narcotics or the treatment for chronic pain. There's only 140,000 patients on the registry, to which about 80% of those are for chronic pain. I'm not saying all of them are for real, but I'll tell you something. The 2 million that may be getting opiates in Michigan, I promise you that many of them are not real chronic pain patients either. But when you put it in that context, it's so fewer, and and chronic pain is a condition in Michigan, we know. And I'm not arguing with you. I just think, listen, there's, I think that it does supply, and I want to hear your anecdotal testimony. I think that's more valuable than to argue about this. Why don't you tell people, so we have it recorded, and people hear how marijuana helps you? I think that's such a valuable message.
Well, I tell you, if I don't use marijuana in the morning, especially before I get out of bed, I go through bouts of spasticity where I have to have my son or my daughter actually lay on my legs or sit on my legs until my spasticity will allow me to, because I can stand a little bit to transfer, help my son transfer me into a chair. But if I have spasticity, more times out of 10, I'll end up falling on the floor. It's a sight to see me. I'm 250 pounds on the floor. I've had to call, the fire rescue to help me up sometimes when my kids aren't around. If I'm trying to transfer, so muscle spasms. I mean, the pain from them, sometimes you get cramps in your legs to where you can't stop them from cramping. I don't know if that's from me sitting in the wheelchair all the time or what, or arthritis, but I know that it does help with that as well. And they were going to put a transistor in my nerve center to stop the number of brain waves going to my brain. That's what they said the cause of the muscle spasms were. And I asked the doctors not to do that because I was afraid that if they made a mistake while they were doing surgery, that I might not be able to be as well off as I am, because I really do feel fortunate. I'm able to communicate myself and people can, understand me. There's a lot of people that are disabled that they can't even speak, so I feel fortunate that I'm able to communicate.
So let me ask you something. Does when you ingest cannabis, whatever format, does it actually make the muscle spasms
they disappear. They actually go away. I mean, if I haven't been smoking marijuana for a couple of days even, I'll be sitting up in a chair and somebody gonna look at me and say, "Curtis," and I'll jump 3-4 feet in the air. My brothers used to screw with me a lot. As we were growing up, they would do that to me just to see me jump. So, it does. If I'm not using cannabis, the muscle spasms are really bad.
Curtis, how can people get a hold of you in order to make donations to your fund to maybe help with some of the transportation costs and the lodging costs it is?
Well, if they have a PayPal, they can go to info@unsum.com, and there's a link to my PayPal on there. They can make a donation through PayPal. Or if they don't...
info@unsung.com.
UMSOM, like United Marijuana Smokers of Michigan. UMSOM.com. Yep, umsum.com. And then also,
yes.
They can contact you by email at info@umsum.com. Is that right?
Yes.
Listen, we'd like you to call back next Wednesday. Our show next week is going to be on a Wednesday because of the 4th of July.
Okay. What time would you like me to call in?
Call at 8
Same
o'clock.
time?
30, yeah.
8 o'clock? 8
we want to hear the
I will
progress.
do that.
Fascinating story. We would love hearing from you, and you're really inspirational. And
well, I appreciate you having me on the show, and I realize that some people might not agree with me, and I'm not asking. All I'm asking is for the president to take a look at this thing, and if there's a chance that it can, if it has any medicinal value, that it should be used to cure. If they can cure cancer, let's give it a shot and see if it'll work, because I think people are dying needlessly, and that's, my dad and my sister, my dad went in 6 weeks, but my sister suffered for over 2.5 years with it, and I can't understand, why they wouldn't try it. They said, well, if we give your sister marijuana, the cancer drugs we give her might not work. So, you know, it's just
well,
that
good luck.
that's the
Good
way
luck
it
on
is. So
that final push towards the White House there.
Next Wednesday, 8:30, we'll be hearing the rest of this fascinating journey of Curtis Kile as he makes the final stretch to the White House and hopefully lets President Obama know that it's time to change his policy on medical marijuana. So let's hear it for Curtis Kile. Thank you, Curtis. Look forward to talking to you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me on the show.
All right. Thank you again.
All right. Have a nice night. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. You've been listening to Planet Green Trees. That was, of course, Curtis Kile. He's making his journey to Taylor, Michigan in a spotlight of need to change and reform the federal policy on medical marijuana.